Welcome back to the Links Golf Club podcast, everyone. Your weekly live show about our wonderful club and the world of golf. This week, we're heading to Kansas City to talk about one of the most exciting projects in golf, the full restoration and reimagination of Hillcrest Country Club, a club that we are part owners of. We will trace the history of this 1916 Donald Ross design, look back at how the original routing used the land, and then dive deeply into how Tripp Davis plans to bring Hillcrest back to life, including how we'll play each hole once it reopens. We're going to do a little virtual tour. You're not going to want to miss this one. I'm Gregory, and I'm joined by Cooper, Chris. Bossie's still alive. Let's bring those guys in. Gentlemen, how we feeling?
Doing good. Good afternoon, gentlemen. It's nice. It's the warmth is holding out up here. Has me feeling positive.
Yeah. Great. Weather's decent. I'm just mostly hoping for decent weather in Austin, Texas in mid-November of 2026. I don't know if you guys penciled in the Good Championship on your calendars yet, but that's definitely going to be the highlight of the new tour season. So mark that down because that's.
I thought you were going to give us a wedding location and date or something, but
no.
Good championship works.
Far more important.
I mean, it's not as bad. Like it's the same as travelers. You know, insurance companies have been ripping off people for a lot long. Like at least Good provides value to their fans. I get why people are annoyed by it, but it sounds kind of drummed up. I will say that I really do hope it's a match play event, which I don't know, but I mean it's called that would make me. I don't care at that point who sponsors it at that point.
But have y'all played with anyone wearing a Good hat? Likely, a teenager. Have you interacted with like a person repping the brand on the course?
Yeah, like I've gotten paired up with people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of any of my direct friends or like play group. But yeah, I've played with people.
Positive experiences. I played with a kid who was like a stick from the back tees on his high school golf team. Super nice guy, right? Like I don't have any negative associations with Good that are flying around golf Twitter these days.
I mean, I read an argument in one of the threads that I think at least makes sense to me if someone was being rational and like not just trying to get attention on Twitter. Is like it's not so much from the etiquette standpoint, their fear is that when people watch Good or Barstool or whatever, they're seeing someone who is playing in like a highly edited video where they're not showing etiquette, right? Like they're not fixing ball markers. They're not like, because they edit that stuff out. No one wants to watch that. Or there's 8 guys on a hole and like people think that that's natural. I think we've always had a problem of if you went onto a golf course for the first time and you had no one there to teach you etiquette, then I think you'd still not know what to do. So you always have needed someone to show you the ropes, I guess. I guess the argument is like, oh yeah, there's more people getting into the game or whatever, but that's probably happening anyway. So I don't know. Good for them for making enough money to sponsor it, and hopefully it's a match play event. That's my official stance.
Yeah.
What fun fact here, Garrett, I believe Garrett, one of the main good guys from Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
How about that for a segue?
What a segue into this podcast. Chris, before we jump into our deep dive on the wonderful Hillcrest Country Club, can you why don't you give us an update on what the stack system's up to?
Yeah, let's talk about the stack system. So you've heard it from us before, but stack system is golf's #1 speed training system, and they have the data to prove it. They've got lots of data. Over 60,000 users, 40 million swings tracked, and an average gain of 27 plus yards in distance potential for the folks using the program. It was used by it is used by a ton of pros, including Matt Fitzpatrick, who's credited it to his big distance gains leading up to the U.S. Open in 2022, which he won. It's an all-in-one system. You can see some of the pieces of it on the site there. It's training club, weights, integrated swing speed radar, an award-winning app, and a wealth of training programs and videos to help every golfer. I did it last winter. It was incredible how quickly my swing speed jumped after starting the program. And I've used it kind of as a winter training tool to keep getting swings in and working on my game when I can't really play as much up north where I am. But speaking of that, we've got a little challenge planned for this winter that we're going to be doing with the stack system. So, Cooper, you want to lay it out for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited about this. So the stack system, if you don't know, it's a swing speed trainer. You set a baseline before doing the foundation system, and then it walks you through workouts to bump up your top swing speed, hopefully getting some really healthy moves and generating more and more power through your golf swing. So what we're gonna do is everyone who has the stack system, if you don't order it, you can get it through their website. The links are in the chat here. You can get it through the links Clubhouse website as well for additional savings. Establish your baseline by November 15th. You can post in Discord, DM us on any platform. We will add you to our stable of golfers so we can all look at each other's performance. It won't be any screenshotted, speed measurements or anything like that. It's all legit. And we're going to compete for who can get the highest percentage gain over their baseline here in November. So we'll probably go into January of 2026, give you plenty of time to complete the foundation program. And then we're going to be giving away 3 million Lynx coin to the winner, who's going to receive all of those golf coins, as well as probably longer drives and lower golf scores. And we're also going to do weekly prizes for grit score, speed records, participation, other stuff like that. So definitely tune in. This will be in the Mulligan. All of the details will be posted in the comments below the video, but get your stack system and compete with us. The three of us are going to do it like we did it last year, but that prize is up for any member who wants to try to up their speed this offseason.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun
y'all should be
thing.
glad that I'm not eligible because I expect gains. So,
Gains.
Yeah.
With a Z.
Look good. Luckily, no one's competing against me.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun thing this winter. Get a little competition, and even if we aren't competing directly on the course, or maybe in addition to competing directly at the course, the tree farm or wherever else. But so if you don't have the stack, go to thestacksystem.com/linksdow to get 10% off. See all of the information, all the different bundles they have and everything. Or if you're a Links member, as Coop said, go to the member clubhouse, seek out the stack system benefit where you can get a 20% off discount for Links members, a little extra benefit for our members here. And order it soon. You'll get it by, well in advance of November 15th to get your baseline in, join the competition, and have a little fun with it this winter. Super easy to do, just twice a week, 30 minutes. You can do it in your backyard or, at a sim or, wherever else. So really easy to join. And yeah, check out the stacksystem.com/linksdow to get your stack and get started with the challenge.
Sweet.
Very
yeah, I know they do the putting and wedges and everything, but as I'm looking at, because on my screen, our screen's a little bit smaller, and I see the wedging, but the stupid part of my brain thought it said wedding, and I was like, they even do wedding like prep. This is amazing. Like if you can get faster at swing speed, but also help Cooper get that wedding planned.
Sure.
That's great. Maybe like distance in the garter or the bouquet toss, all right. Thank you, Chris. Coop, any other announcements you want to make before we dive into Hillcrest?
Yeah, we are exactly 1 month away from what is a highly anticipated event, the Tree Farm. It's a 2-day overnight event sponsored by Golf Breaks at the Tree Farm in South Carolina. Should be an awesome, awesome time for some beautiful fall golf. So those are available at our events page. I will drop that link in the chat here as well. Only a couple spots remain for that. So get in there for the Tree Farm. That's going to be really, really fun. And again, we're doing $200 Golf Breaks credit for everyone who attends for all logistics taken care of, golf trip through Golf Breaks, and then a $2,000 grand prize voucher from Golf Breaks for a golf trip. So get in on that. That's going to be really, really cool. And then in addition to the stack system, we are going to be doing another Links Millionaire Drawing on the 29th. So it'll be a pre-Halloween spooky Links drawing. So make sure you get your Links coins, verify in Discord, and we should have some spooky Halloween prizes for y'all. Definitely looking forward to all of that. But mostly excited to chat with y'all about Hillcrest today.
Yeah, this is exciting. I mean, we're going to try to do a couple of things here over the course of the next couple of weeks, but today we're really going to want to focus on the golf course itself. But before we sort of do that, let's, Hillcrest it's an old course. It was built in Kansas City in 1916. It's Ross's only design in Missouri. It's always had really great bones. When it opened, it was like highly lauded. It was this like wonderful course. Obviously, it's changed a lot over the course of the years, and we tend to change it a lot. Before we sort of get into the current, routing plans and sort of walk through what the course is going to feel like on the ground, Chris, can you just sort of set the stage for us? Give us a little bit of context about Ross, sort of where he was at in his career when he came to Hillcrest, maybe Hillcrest in general. Just give us a very brief sort of context lesson here.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of golf fans, it probably goes without saying because you hear Donald Ross's name all the time. But he's one of golf's defining architects, one of the primary architects of what people refer to as the golden age. So kind of 20s, 30s, 40s. And he designed over 400 courses, but more than the quantity, that includes a lot of the courses you hear all the time as major championship venues, or some of the best courses in the world. So Pinehurst number 2, Oakland Hills, Oak Hill, Seminole, Plainfield, East Lake, where they do the Tour Championship every year. And so he's kind of one of the guys when it comes to golf designers, right? That have not only designed some of the best courses, but have stood the test of time. He's designed, I think, 10 of the current Golf Digest top 100, like 10% of the top 100 courses in the country, kind of wild. And, so he came to Hillcrest in really kind of the middle of his heyday, the height of his career, right? He designed, I think, the majority of the Pinehurst courses in the early 1900s, and then came to Kansas City kind of the 1912 to 1916 range when Hillcrest was designed. Actually came back 1922, 22 for a redesign. So he spent a significant amount of time there, but he was doing this kind of right in the middle of what you might consider his prime, right? Where he was doing some of his best work, which was incredibly cool. And I know we referenced this a number of times before, but like if you look at the newspaper article from when he designed Hillcrest, or when it was opening or announced that it would be opening, he described it saying, he declared Kansas City will have one of the world's finest golf courses. And, he described the land as reminding him of his hometown, which is Dornoch in Scotland, the home of Royal Dornoch, one of the best courses in the world. And, described the land as, kind of reminding him of Scottish golf, where you're playing over the natural contours of the land to flat spots where the green is, and the land providing the hazard for play and everything, right, and making it interesting in that regard. So that was 110 years ago that he was saying that, but it definitely has a lot of that historical element to it. Someone who's one of the best designers in the game, speaking so highly about it and seeing kind of the potential for what it could be way back before it was even a golf course. So cool to see that history. And we'll talk about, how it's evolved over time and everything, but it's kind of it's worth just like remembering all of the heritage that the place has,
For sure. So what I heard was, great land, which, we've been on the ground there. You can see that when you're there. You see how surprising, especially kind of with the main ridge and all the topography is just, it's very surprising based on your preconceived notions of what you might think the Kansas City area is, let alone just like how it's surrounded by, while you're there, what seems like sort of wilderness, right? Like, I mean, there's a park, you're close to the city, but like you don't see houses, you don't see construction when you're down there. So, and then obviously we have Donald Ross. So that was over 100 years ago, Chris. What sort of, again, like we're going to spend a lot more time on this in future things, but how did the course itself evolve over time to where we found it in, early 2025?
Yeah, well, I think the short answer is like as you would expect over 110 years, like a lot of stuff changes over that time, right? Um, I think you can just look at the routing of what the original course was and what the course was in 2023, and a lot was still the same, right? Like still has kind of the bones of what Donna Ross laid out 110 years ago, and kind of tracing the ridges and the elevation changes and everything else. Um, so, kind of the bones are still there clearly, but, you know, you go 110 years, changes in ownership, just changes in time. A lot of stuff will change. I mean, some of the bigger ones, you can see like very clearly, right? There's a pond on the course, wasn't there when Donna Ross designed it or redesigned it. You even in one of the images that Coop had up earlier, the 1941 aerial from whichever tournament that was, there was no pond there on the what was at the time the 14th hole, and there is now, right? Or there was, 2 years ago. So, that's just an example of like one of the major things that changed. And then in addition to like all of the stuff that just happens, like the typical stuff that happens over time as golf courses evolve, right? Like trees grew in and narrowed the course, choked off sight lines, narrowed corridors. It is a hilly site, right? It's called Hillcrest. So over time, there's some erosion or regrading of the land, such that like if you look at like 10 or 13, a lot of slant had kind of evolved over time in the fairways to where it was harder to keep the ball even in the fairway if you had a good drive. Or 15 and 16 had a lot of up and down elevation change, which was not there originally, which kind of changed the character of the hole. And then like the very typical stuff, right? Green shrank. They over time they evolve towards flat circles. That happens kind of at every course, really, right? There's more space between bunkers and green edges. Fairways narrowed, and so all of that happened such that you can see there are clearly kind of changes in how the course played versus what was there originally, even if the bones were still there, right? But that's kind of a story you hear. You see it a lot. We've looked at a lot of courses over time, right? You see this really everywhere. Like it takes time and effort and maintenance to kind of keep the character of a course intact over time. And clearly some of these things fell off a bit over the years and kind of needed a bit of revitalization. You can see some of it there on the map that Coop has pulled up, right? Just the number of trees, the tightness of the corridors, a lot of those types of things, the circular nature of the greens versus having more, interesting contours, all of that stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, so let's, maybe as we transition here into our more deep dive of the new routing. I mean, Coop's showing here what it looked like basically late 2024 ish. And you had, like you said, Chris, a ton more trees. Obviously, there's some major differences in the routing from what we're going to show in the old routing. You played the front on that sort of north end of the course and moved your way to the back on the back. Those are actually going to be flipped, so we're going to show that, which I think is a big improvement. Although it's a little bit of a departure from Ross's original routing, I think it plays the property better while still retaining the bones of those original holes. Obviously, one of the sort of more infamous holes at Hillcrest was the long opening par 3. Lots of people called it one of the hardest opening holes in the Midwest because it was a very, very long par 3 to a very, very difficult green. That will no longer be there, which I think probably much to the rejoicing of many who've played it. But it's also going to be a little bit longer course without any change to the footprint of the property. Let's actually, let's dive in, I think, now to the new routing, because I think we probably all have a little bit of a better sense of, sort of where Ross was in his career before, sort of what the original routing was. Now we're looking at Tripp Davis's new routing for Hillcrest Country Club. Again, you see a flip in the front and the back. Obviously, there's some other quality of life improvements, including a brand new range and short game area, and there's going to be really awesome cabins and everything else. But let's now kind of like all get in the mindset of we've all had lunch at the clubhouse. You know, we had maybe some tasty barbecue, done our warm up on the brand new practice range that is just going to be incredible. Hit a bunch of wedge shots into some greens and starting to get a feel for how those greens are going to spin. We've hit some putts, and we're now walking out to the first tee, which Cooper is showing here. So this first hole to par 4, we're going to play the Reds today as we go through this. The Reds are going to play 6,600, so shouldn't be a problem for my Stacks brethren, although this first hole is it's a little bit long. So I'm kind of operating under the assumption here that and you can see actually before I say this, that dot that you can see there in the middle, I think is sort of the ideal landing spot. But this is a long opening par 4. You know, you kind of used to in Scotland, you have the handshake openers. There seems to be a pretty good landing area there, although that bunker to the left can pose a challenge because I think it'd be impossible to get to the green from there, given that you're blocked out by the other sand traps on the left. But if we're playing from the Reds, and I'm assuming, let's say just like an average, 250 tee shot around where that black dot is, we're looking at a 193-yard approach into what looks to be a pretty tough green. So I think, there's a world in which, depending on how much barbecue we ate, I might be laying up here. But hopefully I can get a 5-iron to that green, get it to stick, and leave with a comfy par. How are y'all playing this hole, or any other impressions about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest impression, just again, getting to like what's getting revitalized. You can see this here on this hole, and then a bunch of the holes, right, is like just more interest around the green, not just flat circle, right? Interesting contours on the green, asymmetric like bunker placement, right? Just one side, short grass on the other, affecting the strategy of how you play it. A lot of that'll get to like how that, although like minute contours actually, get shaped and everything. But even in just looking at the aerial, right, you can see that there's a lot more interest in how the hole plays from that perspective, which is what I'm really interested in. I mean, definitely a long hole, and will be a challenging opener and all that. It follows the routing of the original 10th hole, right, which was that was like the 610-yard par 5, right? So keeping some of that character, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, it's just very cool to see some of the interest added there, just in how the placement of the bunkers and greens and short grass areas and everything else is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's going to be some pin placements on the left of that green. They're going to be pretty gnarly if you're anywhere, really anywhere in that landing spot, because you're going to have to cover the sand to get to them, and you're going to have to hold them from like 180, 190 out. Tough opener. Cooper, what do you think? You're probably carrying that bunker or hitting it 150 yards right onto the back nine. What are you thinking about this hole? You're muted, by the way. Still muted.
Thank you. Yeah, my miss has been left recently off the first tee when I'm not warmed up. So hopefully that driving range will help me out. But if I do pull it, I'm appreciating the removal of trees on the downslope side of this hole. That's going to help me out a lot. But then I have to carry those bunkers going in to this well-defended green. So definitely going to be interesting. Depending on how I'm feeling, I might borrow your 2-iron and just try to punch something out 240, right? And catch that big generous landing zone there. I think we'll have to see how it goes, how I'm feeling that day. I think, the quantity of barbecue consumed is going to be a big factor walking up to that first tee.
Yeah, QBBQC is going to be a major metric that we have here for some of these rounds. All right, let's take it over to 2. While you move over there, we're coming off hole 1. We're now moving a little bit west here, which this is sort of one of my favorite areas in the property. I love how this is going to look. It's going to be really fun. It's a par 4. It's going to be 346 from the Reds, so a little bit of relief here, a little bit shorter. From the blues or the grays especially, it's somewhat drivable. It's not from the Reds unless you're Bryson. So, what's the challenge here, Chris? What are you looking at? You're hitting, let's say, again, like an average 250, 260, obviously some longer, obviously some shorter. Landing dot, you got a lot of space there. Narrows a little bit more for longer hitters. But again, a lot of interesting things happening around the green here.
Yeah, I mean, this one's a little shorter, right? So a little bit of a risk reward. How much do you want to push it up, or do you want to try and leave it back to hit a certain number on your approach and all that? Yeah, certainly love the shared fairway features and all that. And again, like on the last hole, more interest around the green, asymmetric bunkering, all that, which I think will be very cool. But yeah, I think this is going to be a fun area of the course, like you said, and just gets to one of those points where it's like a little more strategic. Like I don't know, my tendency is just to mash driver and see where it ends up. But this is one of those points where it could not go necessarily so well and get punished for that. So I guess it's could get taught a lesson here.
I'm hitting 2-iron for sure all day from this distance. It's leaving a pitching wedge, maybe a 50-degree in, depending on wind and everything, and how long I hit it, and how badly I tow it. Maybe I'm hitting a 5-iron in, but I think this is a good hole for this is an approach shot. Like you got a lot of room to hit off the tee, but you got to step up and you got to stick it close.
Yeah, I'm definitely pushing it into this high grass here, and then having to punch out. I'm trying to go for like the front edge and just blocking it a little. So, I'll be envious of your flushed approach shot as I'm like trying to scramble for par.
Golf's a game of expectations. All right, moving on to 3. 3 is a par 3, so the first par 3 we've seen here. One of 3 on the front, which is pretty cool. A little bit shorter. We got 123 from the Reds, hitting a pitching wedge. Is this down elevation? Like, is this playing down, Chris? I assume.
Yeah, a little down. Ridge. Yeah, and the shortest par 3 on the course. Yeah, so this will be a good short one. You can see a lot of bunkering out of the green, and pretty big green. Lots of pin placement. So I think this will be a really fun one.
Yeah, I envision a lot of 3 putts here. I imagine like hitting it a little bit too far, getting some wind behind you, and I haven't seen the topo of that green, but I imagine it's gonna. Whenever I see a short par 3 on a scorecard, I usually imagine that the green is going to be pretty tough.
Yep. What's the yardage on this? Is going to be a nice short one. Yeah. That's right in the wheelhouse of my new 54. So I'm sticking this one close, boys. Recovering from my previous bogey, getting one back.
God, 54. Jesus, that's pitching a 44 for me. We're 10 degrees aloft difference here. All right, so moving on to hole 4. Now we're at a par 5, 539 from the Reds.
Zoom out here.
So, I mean, one thing that's pretty cool. One thing that I do like is like this feels, even though we've said the word elevation a lot, this feels like it's going to be a joy to walk because there's not a long walk from greens to tees based on how this routing is. We're playing here from the Reds. This is, for me, always going to be a 3-shot hole unless this winter I end up really chasing some gains with stacks. I just don't love hitting a 3-wood into this green, which would be like best case scenario, hit a great drive, still have a 3-wood in, and having to hit a 3-wood over those bunkers and getting it to hold that green, which looks not as deep as you'd want it to be on a 2-shot par 5. So I think I'm laying up here, playing it pretty conservatively, probably hitting 2-iron off the tee, probably hitting a 5-iron, and then seeing what I have left to get to the green. Just trying to stay left as much as possible.
Yeah, that's what I'd be doing too. Pending any huge gains from the stack system this winter. But at least on days when I'm playing smart, that's what I would do. Maybe if we're pressing already, it might not be the case.
I hope we're not pressing already.
I know it's early.
I am waiting for the 8th green to clear because I am avoiding the woods over here. This is my danger zone, right? Yep. I'm closing the face like crazy, and I'm letting it rip. But the risk here is that I need more trees defending this 8th green. I got to see what's going on. Because I might be hitting my second shot from like right about there.
A straight miss there is just not great for anyone playing the 8th hole.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so this is from the tee shot. You're hitting. You're having to move. Like, I don't hit a cut and can't really hit a cut, and I think that's why it takes driver out of my hands, because I just have to hit it straight to that dot. It'd be a little bit shorter, but yeah, I mean that's kind of the whole thing, Coop. You can hit your shape, you're gonna get that thing down the fairway. If not,
how tall are these trees?
sued.
Right. This is a question. It's like, how much can I cut this corner? Right. Because like maybe if I can start it out a little bit this way, I can feel confident about coming back in. But if these are 80-foot, and there's some big forests around this golf course, especially down on the side. If those are, tall trees, it's going to be a different calculation.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I can't wait to play this golf course. All
fun.
right.
This fairway also, it's worth noting, this fairway also rolls like on this kind of side, this edge of the property. There's some up and down that you're going across, which again will be like regraded a bit, but so that'll be part of the strategy on this one too, right? Like, you're going to hit it further up, but then you're down in the bowl and maybe a blind approach and that type of thing, which will, add some interest, which will be fun.
All right, let's walk after all. Chris and I have birdies. Coop has an eagle. We're moving on to the 5th tee box here. This is another par 3, second of 3 on the front. We're looking at 136 from the Reds. Got some sand behind, got some, and again, this pond's not going to be there, right, Chris? This pond is going away.
Yeah, and actually that's worth noting, just like a general statement, right? Like, this is the routing that was drawn up and shared earlier this year, but like A, changes happen made to this, and B, like without question, changes will get made over time, right? Going through construction, just as you get into the nitty gritty of it, like things will change, bunkers added, removed, or, shaping different, all of that stuff. So kind of take all this as a guideline, right? But still a fun exercise to go through. But yeah, that is true. So like that pond is no longer there, right?
Okay.
So that will not be something you're contending with, although the, kind of the nature of the hole is still the same, more or less.
So make sure I don't thin a shot into that. And we're playing up. If we look at the topo, we're playing uphill at this point, right? We're coming back up the ridge a little bit.
I think this one will be down.
I think it's downhill too.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, so 136, maybe playing a kitten less. Yeah, I mean the main idea here is going to depend on pin placement again. It's like the 2 par 3s we've seen are pretty short. Spoiler alert, that is going to change very soon. What are we watching out? I mean, obviously we want to be away from those bunkers. I would assume, looking at those bunkers being there, that green's going to slope off to the right. There is some landing area right, so a healthy miss right makes sense here. Unfortunately, my miss is left, so I got a lot to contend over on that option. But what are you thinking about in this tee shot?
It just fits your draw, Greg. That's positive attitude here.
Yeah, I'm drawing it into the sand for sure. Like that's the best part.
Yeah, this is a
angle of the green.
This is a skulled gap wedge, 100%. This is not. I'm thinking about drawing it. Like, if it doesn't draw, I'll bail out to that kind of open area opposite the sand, and I'm sculling it to the back of the green.
I love that even like in a thought exercise, Cooper and I are already just like negative self-talking our way. We're only at the 5th hole, and we're already worried.
Oh yeah,
we need therapists. All right, let's move on to 6. I think 3. Let's say now we're needing a pick me up here. We got a 429 yard par 4. This is going back up to the corner of the property. Again, this used to be the back, now it's going to be the front. Pretty short walk from the green, which I like. Again, I'm going to hope to walk this golf course as much as possible. Playing from the Reds, you do have a carry over into the fairway. That ideal landing spot is pretty much in line with that bunker, which I assume that bunker is going to be a problem. There's also that smaller one there, which looks even worse. But at 429, I'm probably looking at, I'm hitting driver. I think at this distance for sure. Right miss seems okay. Left miss, I'm very worried about those bunkers. But ideally, we're getting there into the fairway. Then our approach shot, again, you probably want to be pretty left here, Chris, because then you're not having to contend with as much. But if you miss straight, you got a bunker left. Pretty deep green. So I imagine that pin placement is going to change approach a ton. It seems like it's maybe 30 yards or more, depending on if it's on the front or the back.
Yeah. And this is one where I think that the tees may be moving a bit too from what is on this map, so the distance may change a bit as well. But yeah, I think this is going to be a cool one. A little kind of meanders down at the bottom of the property there, and follows similar to the old 17 that was there, but we'll play a little differently because some of the trees that have been removed and everything, and the new green complex, which again looks to my eye very interesting, and kind of a lot of interest in it, just in the shaping and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a back pin placement could lead to some like chips from that kind of front right corner of it. You might get blocked out by some of those sand traps. I don't know if you can make that putt.
Yeah. I like this tree here. That's going to be my target line with expecting a fade, but I'm going to accidentally hit a straight ball. It's going to kick out just behind this bunker, and I'm going to hit a hero shot to like 4 feet.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Your assessments are very honest, Scoop.
I know what I'm doing, and it's not pretty, but it's golf.
We got to avoid the big trouble. I mean, the good thing is there's very little forest to miss into. Like, I think this is a golf course in which it's going to be exactly the kind of golf course you want to play when you're traveling, because like, I don't want to lose a ball. I don't want to, have to hit there's going to be some trouble. There's going to be some trees that might block out that are very strategically placed. But we're going to find our balls out here, which I think is a good thing for our trips out there. If we move on to 7, we have a par 3. This is a long 198 from the Reds. It's 219 from the Blacks, but 198. I mean, the good news is there's that like landing area. Realistically, unless it's downwind and downhill, I'm not even sure, depending on the pin placement, if I can get a 5-iron there. I mean, that's like kind of my max for a 5-iron. I hit it dead pure with a great swing. But realistically, I'm hitting my 5-iron like 180, 184. So 7 wood's a little long. So the wind, I think, and elevation are going to play into this hole a bunch. Otherwise, I might be playing for bogey here, hitting a 5-iron, landing it in that short grass, and then trying to chip up.
It looks like there's a pretty strong hill right here based on the topo. So that's going to be kind of interesting if you do hit it. You're hitting uphill. Right side's elevated, how you want to kind of get over that or play that on a longer par 3 here. Yeah, definitely interesting. Might club up here, take a 6-iron and just try to swing easy.
Club up and take a 6-iron. Youth. All right, 8. As we kind of get through this front 9, Coops hit his hero shot. He stuck it to 3 feet with a 8-iron on 7. Now we're on to 8, another long par 4. We're looking at 460 yards from the Reds. In this case, I'm definitely hitting driver because my 2-iron puts me as like pretty much guaranteed bogey territory. I love, for me, like I love where that bunker's placed, because at least for me on those last 2, I'm probably not going to get there. That one on the right, I'm probably not going to miss into. So I'm probably aiming at that bunker and going left. But there is that tree there. So like a bad tee shot here I can see this being easily a double for me, like just the way this is laid out. But where that dot is, you have a landing zone within those, depending on how long your hits are. And then you're going to have like a pretty long approach shot into this green. This green looks a little bit smaller than some of the other longer par 4s we've seen. And you do have some bunkers around and seemingly less short grass to miss into. What are y'all thinking here?
Yeah, I like this one. It's definitely long, but it's kind of a classic long par 4. I'd say alternating bunkers on the sides, and this again is, you can see it on the topo, kind of there'll be some up and down that you're contending with and have to think about on it. But yeah, I mean, it's a big hole. It's definitely be driver, and then
Maybe
hopefully not too
DOD.
long iron in. Yeah.
To me, this seems like, on a Ross course, the advice is usually keep the ball in front of the hole, in front of the green, right? Like, this seems to me one that you'd be very okay with your second shot landing right at a short bunker, and then just having something to chip up and get on, versus trying to really fly this green. Because if you miss up here, I think you're going to have a really, really tough angle with slope and everything else. So take that Donald Ross axiom and just be okay, safe in front.
Take your medicine. All right, so we're walking up to the 9th tee box. We have a par 5, 518 from the Reds. Pretty standard length. For me, I'm not hitting this in 2, so I'm playing a layup here. So depending sort of on, how I'm feeling that day, it's either driver to that landing spot, or it's a 2 iron and then hitting a longer layup. But again, this, like, one thing that we've noticed in a lot of these is it's not just like a conventional like dogleg left, dogleg right, or straight. Like, you have some, like, this landing spot seems like relatively straightforward. That layup looks pretty tough. Like, I could definitely see myself laying up into the sand traps. There's also those trees on the right that are going to block you out from getting to that green. And then again, that green, like this one at least, is a little bit more vertical to if you're trying to go for it, you probably have a chance to run that up. But you do have those sand traps on the right, so I'm assuming that based on the topo, that green is going to roll off to the left.
Yeah, seems like a lot of the strategy or interest on the second shot. Yeah, do you want to take on those bunkers? You have the ability to run it up. You still got to get it over them. And bunkers guarding one side of the green again. It seems to be a consistent theme, right? But yeah, very cool approach shot. This is one where, at least for me, it's like could theoretically be in the range of going for 2 off of a good drive, but probably not the smart decision a lot of the time, but enough to tempt me into exactly what I probably shouldn't be doing, which is, I guess that's good, good architecture. To some extent.
I could see some times where you're either behind quota or ahead of quota and going for it here because you feel like you either can go lower or you have to catch up, and just getting boned and being even further behind. So
yeah, this is the putting green by the clubhouse, right? Okay, so I'm just thinking about my left miss on long irons. So I'm up here. I'm going for it in 2. Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be heckling me as I hit my approach shot onto the green, but from this rough hillside overlooking next to the clubhouse. So that's how that's going to play out for me. I'm going for it though, 100%.
Love it. All right, let's get some. Let's get a second helping of barbecue. Let's refill our water bottles, and let's get out to the 10th. The 10th is a 359-yard par 4. From the Reds.
This is
this one. Yeah, this one doesn't have the number on it. So unlike the first, which is a really long par 4, we start with a relatively short par 4 here. I think you have options here. You can certainly hit an iron off the tee. Not anywhere close to drivable for me. But I think what really the question is what the distance is to those bunkers, because things narrow out a lot. Like, this kind of reminds you a little bit of some holes that we saw at Oakmont at the US Open. It's just like, depending on where you land, you could be in huge trouble as these fairways narrow in and get pinched by bunkers, or you could take a shorter club and just have a longer in on, which I think is the right move on this hole.
Yeah. Jake in the chats pointed out that this looks like a bit of a forced carry. There's like a not quite a ravine, but like a dip here in the land, which makes this an interesting hole. Definitely don't want to get caught in this narrow area, but I think it's going to be a good one coming out of the clubhouse. Challenging play, and one that, again, I'm probably going to look at you, Greg, and be like, that was smart golf. You hit a nice tee shot there, and I'm in somewhere not fairway.
Hey man, you didn't come to Kansas City to lay up.
I did not.
All right, let's move over to 11. As we move further down up, we got a par 5 here, 528. So pretty long par 5. This one, the green is super interesting. It's surrounded by bunkers. You have a little bit of bunker there on the right, which really obviously comes into play with your second shot. If you're doing that, I'm absolutely laying up here again. So hoping to hit either, a good drive. That landing area seems pretty forgiving. Obviously you get blocked out by the left tree. I don't know how far those bunkers are from the reds, assuming that they're not in play for me. I'm hoping I've digested most of the barbecue here, hitting a solid shot. And then you got sort of a top golf shot to that bigger landing area short and a pitch up to the green. I think I'm going to want less club going up to that green because it seems, with a 7-iron or more in hand, let alone trying to hit this green in 2, that's going to be a tough shot.
And Greg, if you remember, we tried to play this hole, or the old version of it, right? And it's got some interesting topography to it. It's relatively flat, but you've got an awesome view down to the end of the property towards the Kansas City skyline. This is a really, really interesting section of the golf course, where you get to see these great views, and you get some of these longer, straighter holes. But the green complexes, like Chris has been mentioning, are going to be much more interesting than those circular ones that we've seen in the past recent years.
Yeah, I think the flow of the round will be a lot better now with this being the back, right? Because you've sort of played down elevation for the front, and now you kind of have like an out and back situation. Like we're making a trip out towards Swope Park, and then we're going to eventually play our way back to a third helping of barbecue at the end of this round. So, yeah, anything y'all are worried about on this hole? How are you thinking about it?
Thick rough.
I mean, I think the bunker placements are pretty, just exactly like, they're put exactly where you might be driving the ball, where, if you think about really gunning a drive and getting there in 2, those first bunkers are there, right? You have to contend with, and then on your layup, if you choose the layup, the second set on the right are right in range. So, pretty classic there. I think this is one too where the green is perhaps going to end up at a slightly different location than depicted on the map here, but length about the same, and obviously playing same direction and everything.
Cool. All right, number 12, we have a par 3, 171 from the reds. Solid landing spot, short, hopefully not needing it because this is 7-iron. I'm going to miss left, pin high into that bunker a bunch. That bunker was made for me. Depending on pin placement here, I think you're going to have a lot of sucker pins, I feel like, on this hole. Like there's going to be some ones you're going to want to go for, depending on your shape. I can see being in that bunker. You have also a bunker long, which I can't imagine is going to be very fun to try to get back down to the green from. But yeah, nice par 3 here. Again, we've sort of seen a good mix. I think a lot of like courses you play, you kind of like on most of the par 3s, you have a similar shot in hand or similar type of shot in hand. I'm excited so far that we've seen a very short par 3, seen a long par 3, and now we're seeing some like mid-iron par 3s. Good mix here.
Yeah, there's a great variety both in distance for all the par 3s, and there's 5 of them too, right? There's 3 par 3s on the front, 2 on the back, and in direction that they're played, right? So when the wind's kicking, they're going to play a lot differently. So that's definitely really good setup.
It's going to feel great to stick your tee shot, drop your bag off right here, and just carry your putter down to the green so you can come back and tee off on 13. That's going to be a nice feeling.
Absolutely. If you know,
this is also, it's worth pointing out, this is a net new hole, which it's interesting when you look at the property, like the original routing and then where it was, 2 years ago. This like corner was just unused. I mean, it is just trees. It wasn't utilized. So I think really good use. Yeah, you can see it up there in the kind of top left. So really good use of some new land, right? Kind of a net new add. And also that's part of like, lengthening the course, kind of bringing it up to today's distance standards and everything, which really helps. So it's, really good use of the land there as well.
All right, 13, par 4, 471 from the reds. We're coming back up towards the clubhouse here. Another one of those sort of shared fairway situations. It's a long par 4 for me. I'm hitting driver. Obviously, you have those very strategically placed trees there for sort of any miss. I mean, this is not a fairway you want to miss. You have that sand bunker to deal with. And then you're going to have to hit, depending on where you are in that fairway, you're going to have to hit a shape shot to avoid those bunkers and still try to make it onto the green. But it's cool. Anything right, I can see someone playing 17, someone playing 13, both having similar chips, depending on if they miss left or right there. Give each other a high five after a cool shot.
Yeah. One other cool part about this exact section of the course here, this is the highest point of the property, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bonsai tree up here, and you got a bunch of greens and tee complexes right here. So cool spot to see your friends during a tournament or watch a couple shots go in. And these are elevated greens above the fairway, which is like kind of a signature Donald Ross approach. So if you get a good shot in here, you'll get to hit up to a green, maybe just see like half of the flag stick and kind of go for the pin if you hit a good drive.
Yeah, the sicko in me looks at where that bonsai tree is and the tee box is around and notices that you can probably hit at least 5 greens from that tee box, sort of like an osprey nest situation. So,
yes, sir.
Maybe later on, Summers, everyone else is left. I could see, some fun. You have those 2 greens there. You have the one on the left. You have the one on the right. And then I would even, try to hit that long one if I was in a cart. But so that it is cool. Like this is going to be a fun course to play. I mean, obviously, there's not going to be like a ton of people out there all the time because it's a private club, but like it's going to be fun to be able to see other people pretty close by and also get a sense of just sort of how the land outlays. So I think that's my favorite part of the property that we walked for sure. That tree is cool. And you can just sort of close your eyes and imagine what that's going to look like playing it.
Yeah, you stole my thought there, Greg. I think this is my favorite part of the property of the routing, specifically the kind of shared short grass area between 13 and 17, but also just in general, right? You're at the high point. You can see the whole course. You can see groups, elsewhere on the course. It's a meeting point, folks crossing 17 to 18, 13 to 14, see people go on 1 or on 10. So very, very cool. And this is also, it's interesting where like these holes, the routing is basically the same as it was before, right? This is 4 and 8. Green side's the same, but really just being revitalized, right? Where today it plays, you can see it, there up a little, above there. It's 2, kind of narrow tree line, or it was 2 narrow tree line corridors. Now it's going to be much opened up, shared bunker between the fairways, and then shared, kind of green complex short grass area at the green, which is, I think it's just awesome.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you just see here, we've said it over and over again about how different this course is going to play without trees. And if you watch like any videos or see any pictures of people playing the course before tree removal, it is going to be, I think, much more fun. I mean, maybe if you love trees, then you're into that, like great. But this part of the property would be unrecognizable if you look at those pictures side by side.
Yeah.
All right, let's go over to 14. We got a 418-yard par 3, 2 iron back in hand, baby. You do have a carry to get to that fairway, but I like it, and I think it takes that bunker out of play. I'm going to have a longer iron in, but there is some room to miss left, which I like. Maybe I'm getting up and down, scrambling a bit here, but I want to take those bunkers out of play on the right. I mean, this, again, we're sort of back to, it's cool that you get the 2 shared things back to back, right? You get 13, 17 share, and then you go over here and you get 14. And this, I think, is just going to look so cool. I think another like low key sicko thing is like in the fall, this is going to look really cool. When you get some of the sort of like browned out grass in the rough, but then you have the green fairways and the greens. This is going to look cool.
Yeah. This is pretty decent amount of elevation change here too, right, Chris? Because we're going from the highest point of the property down the 14th fairway. So yeah, I think, if you want to use less than driver here, this is a good spot to do it.
Yeah, and this one is kind of this is one of, I think, probably the least changed holes routing wise. The old 5 was basically the same tee and green site, but more interest added with both the bunkering and the shared fairways, and bunkering on the fairway and the green, which I think will be really cool. And like you said, Coop, you descend a little bit, go into that corner of the property, and then you kind of wrap around on the lower points on 15 and 16, which we'll get to.
Sweet. 15, par 4, 321. I can see some matches just ending here. Someone having a lead and it starts to turn badly here. Because I imagine when people see this number, a lot of people are going to send driver. I think this is a really difficult tee shot. I'm hitting 2-iron for sure because I just hit it straight right at that number 15, and then have a nice little wedge in. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of trouble. I mean, I can see some birdies here with a good dive, and I can see some triples here just getting in trouble. There's trees to the left, there's bunkers everywhere, and just by the shape of the green, again, I think, in knowing the part of the property, the contouring is gonna have some interesting pins. But yeah, we're getting close to sort of the end here. We're starting making our way back out to the property, but then we're going to make our way back in. What are y'all's thoughts on 15?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really fun one. Maybe one of my most favorite holes on the course. It's one of the shorter par 4s, if not quite drivable for some folks. It's definitely, very short, so you could try and push it up there, but you'll have to contend with, like, this is on a bit of a side hill, right? So there's some contouring, especially by the green, like the topo map showed that Coop just had up. And so you're going to have, there's a very clear, like, you can lay back, flatter part, kind of not take it on if you go for it, or even just try and get close. You got to be much more precise. This will get, I think, regraded a bit. This is one of those areas where there's some erosion and stuff over time, but it'll, be shaped perfectly for just that exact risk reward. You can't even run it up and onto the green and be sitting really nice. And like you said, it's 15th hole. So, like, if you're playing match play, this is, crunch time, and, where some of those decisions will be really important, which is awesome.
For sure.
Yeah. This is an entirely caffeine dependent tee shot. Like, how many Red Bulls I've had will determine whether it's driver or 5-wood.
I'm the flip of you, Coop. I'm, my miss is left. So this is like, this is definitely danger zone for me, try and get a hold of one and overcook it, and then just be done.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the few holes a tee shot out of bounds is a real possibility, as well as obviously all the stuff that is in between you hitting like a snap hook out into those trees versus just like being behind that tree or in that sand. And it also makes it really, like, a punch shot from behind that tree is tough too, because you don't have a lot of fairway to work with. When you're looking for lost balls, you look right for quantity and left for quality, Chris. I feel like you're going to find a lot of Pro V1s in this tree line here. That's going to be a good spot to hunt for balls. I've never heard that before, but that's awesome.
I had neither, but I like it.
All right, moving on to
Makes me feel better about myself, at least.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Moving on to 16, we have the longest par 3 on the course. Anyone who lamented the change from the opening long par 3 from the tips, this is a 264-yard par 3. It's 220 from the reds. I'm hitting 7-wood. I get the 7-wood high, it drops, and this is around the ideal distance. I hit my 7-wood like 213. So it doesn't roll a lot, but based on where this is, I also have a draw. I also have a draw miss. So that would be the biggest worry, that as I'm standing up here trying to call myself for this tee shot, being like tied in a match, overcooking that 7-wood is a problem. But otherwise, the way that this green is positioned, it fits the shape for my 7-wood perfectly. So that's the decision I'm making here.
Yeah. Uphill, long par 3. Love it. Like, let the long iron eat your favorite, fairway wood. This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, and this one we shared the drone video of a while back, right? With the graded land and everything, where you can kind of see some of the length, which, yeah, this one's going to be a beast. But I love it again. Same as 15, right? It's like two great kind of half par length holes right in the crunch time match play portion of the course. So I just think that's great. It's like such a great sequence there of, like, if you're going in, your match is close, and one of you has to press, like that means these two holes, you're going to have to go for it, right? And it's like perfect setup where there's a very clear risk reward or something that you have to take on, which is awesome. And yeah, it's a beast. I'd have to blame from the tips. I'd have a full driver trying to get it there.
Yeah, for sure.
No joke.
Hopefully, again, you're leaving your bag right here. You're just taking your putter and your driver and, walking up there victorious. Seems to be the ideal scenario.
Yeah, at this point, we're just trying to make it through 17. We have a par 5, 493, but short of a par 5 here. Certainly in the real possibility go for 2, and I think, as Chris said, is depending on how much the foot needs to be on the gas here. Unfortunately, we're probably hitting 7 wood, which, depending on wind or everything, maybe a 2 iron to try to get it up there, but it is also pretty protected. This is another one of those where you have to, if you're going for it in 2, you have to hit a really good shot. And I think, like, in my bag, I don't have this distance to be able to hit it high enough to be able to stop it. The good news is, as with anything, there's more than enough, I think, space here to play it safe. But I think this is one that I'm stepping on the gas here unless I have a lead that I can lose.
The other thing I love about this one, so 13 and 17, going in parallel right next to each other, they're pretty close in distance, 471, 493, but they're different par numbers, right? 13's par 4, 17's par 5. So it's a very, it's a little bit like, how much do you believe that par is just a number? Like, you could play them the exact same, but getting to the point of like half par holes, which, tend to be some of the more interesting ones, like it just kind of presses that issue a bit, right? Like, if you believe 13's a par 4 and you have to get it there in 2, you're going to take on a bunch of risks. Similarly, maybe you're less apt to do that on 17 because it's like, well, it's a par 5. It's fine if I lay up. But in reality, it's like, it's pretty similar distance, and you don't par is just a number, right? It doesn't have any bearing on your final score. So I love that little wrinkle. And then plus that, again, you kind of, somebody's going to have to go for it late in the round if you're playing match play, and it's forcing the issue again.
Yeah, someone's also taking a skin here for sure. This is one that I can see in a foursome, somebody getting a birdie and then everyone else just sort of like high-fiving each other and writing smiley faces down on the scorecard. As we get to 18, we're playing 434 from the Reds. We're coming home with a par 4. We actually also have played this hole. This is used to be 9. There's a lot of history on this hole that we're going to talk about in the future, but this is great. I mean, you're coming back to the clubhouse. We've talked about this. Chris has talked about this in the past. That patio, people are going to be sitting out there watching you finish a round. And, at least we have a, nothing too terribly long. But in this case, if you don't hit a good tee shot, you're going to be, a lot of people are going to be watching your ball sort of ricochet in different directions or hitting into those sand traps. So from here, it's a good landing spot. There's some length there, but if for longer hitters, it's going to pinch in again, like a couple of the holes we've seen. And then depending on where I can see a lot of tough pins on that left bunker. And I can see a lot of people really favoring right from there, but being on the right side of the fairway, you have a pretty clean access point here to hopefully win a match.
Yeah. You do not want to miss this green left. This is a downslope here. You're going to have a tough chip back up. But very cool to come in. You'll have your friends and rivals sitting on the porch watching you hit your approach in. It's going to be a great finishing hole.
Yeah, this is such an awesome. It's just like a classic par 4, classic finisher. Like you said, from the clubhouse, you see the 18th green and fairway, and then the Kansas City skyline. It's right on top of the ridge, so high point on the property. Makes it a little more challenging too, right? If you go offline, you're going to be, going down the side of the ridge, make your second shot more difficult. But just like a classic finisher straight up to the clubhouse. Love that. Perfect, like cap to the routing, and like great. They flipped the 9s, right? So this used to be the 9th hole, and then the 18, I would argue, is much kind of less interesting and less kind of a centerpiece of the routing. This is like perfect idea to flip that because this makes for a perfect finish.
Yeah. Great. Well, so we've now looked at a little bit of context from Ross. We've looked at a little bit of what the course was before we became co-owners of it. And we've now walked through and played our first round. I think I'm like, first time I play it, there's a couple of holes that I think I'm playing for bogey for sure. The reds are a little bit of a stretch for me, mostly just because I'm hitting longer irons into holes. I think I'm breaking 90 in that first round. I'd like to say 8 handicap, breaking 90 first round. We're going to see a lot about how these greens are, but I feel pretty comfortable based on sort of how smartly I play. If I'm reflecting on my round I just played, I made some good decisions, right? We might have not executed incredibly well every shot, but I think the process was there. But let's talk about, before we close up, just based on that run through and based on what you've seen being out there, what's your number one favorite hole going to be?
Yeah, so I picked the 13 and 17 kind of double or shared green complex area is my favorite point on the course, but I think if I'm picking one favorite hole, I would go with 15. So I was saying kind of short par 4, risk reward late in the round. And I think I'll have a lot of interest in it. That's probably my favorite. And it's reachable, whereas 16 maybe will just get me depressed because I will have trouble reaching the green.
Yeah, 15 would also be mine, but I'll go with 3 because I love a short par 3. And so I'm gonna, just to be different, I'm gonna say 3. I love the way that green is. I love that we're getting a short par 3 sort of early in the round, because typically where I'm getting squirrely is on those types of shots anyway. And I just anytime there is a short par 3, and I'm excited to play every one of these tee boxes. I mean, this is 78 from the whites. That's going to be a really fun pitch shot. So I'm going to go with 3, but my tied love would be 15 on the back, which you just mentioned. Coop, what about you?
I'm a big fan of this top of the hill area. So 17, 13, that Hillcrest, the namesake, I think there is going to be really, really fun, especially if we get some hospitality going on here. But it's all in all a really interesting course, and I'm really excited to see the holes in their new fashion. I think we're going to run into some excellent shots, and I'm excited to explore corners of the course where no one expected someone to hit a ball, because I've hit a 4-iron 240 but 50 yards left of target.
Fair enough. We're gonna have a lot of firsts out there in our first round. Well, this is great, everybody. Thanks for listening in and watching. Our hope is sort of to really make it real for you, what it's going to be like to play this course. Obviously, you can look at a topo map, you can look at a routing, but you really start to think about, and if you're a sicko, which I assume you are if you're listening to this podcast, you might have already done this exercise in your head, but go through the routing. Tell us what kind of decisions you'd be making out there. Tell us how you'd be playing. Tell us what you think you're going to shoot on your first time out there. We're so excited to play this, and it's going to be a really fun next couple of months. We're looking to go deep into more of the history side of things. We're going to go deeper into the strategy of the golf course, and our hope is to really start to make this stuff click for you in your head, rather than be kind of like this abstract plan. As we start to get closer in reality, we're going to try to share more information to get closer to that reality as well. So Coop, Chris, thanks for bearing with me. I think you both beat me in this match we just played, but it was fun competing against you. And remember, check out Hillcrest memberships if you're interested at all. You can visit that in the clubhouse, or you can go to links.golf/Hillcrest and reach out to us to talk. And you can also check out Instagram and YouTube for any Hillcrest or Spey Bay updates. Don't forget, there's 2 courses in this stable. Hit us up in Discord with guest ideas, hot takes, feedback. You can follow the pod, and you'll get reminded when we release new stuff, which, if you enjoyed this episode, I think you're going to really enjoy stuff that we have coming up soon. So you can also leave a review. Make sure that you're listening, watching, everything else. We love hearing from you. We love seeing you. So we will see you next time. Appreciate it.
Get your stack system.
See y'all.
Gains.
Later.
See ya.